At the end of almost every interview, they'll ask, "Do you have any questions for us?" And please don't say, "No, I think you've covered everything." Because those final few minutes are still part of the interview. It's your chance to show how you think, uncover what the role is actually like, and work out whether you genuinely want the job. So in this video, I'm going to give you 8 strong questions you can ask at the end of a tech sales interview. But please, if you only ask one question, make it the first question, as I genuinely believe it's the strongest question you can ask. And stay until the end, because I'll also give you a bonus closing question that lets you address any concerns the interviewer has about hiring you whilst you're still in the room. Let's get into it. Right, the first question. Let's imagine this interview goes really well. I join the team, and in 12 months, you feel hiring me was a brilliant decision. What would I have achieved or demonstrated for you to feel that way? Now, I love this question for 2 reasons. First, it gets the interviewer to imagine you're already working there and succeeding. And second, it gets them to explain exactly what an excellent first year would look like. They might mention hitting quota, generating strong pipeline, becoming independent, or whatever else matters most in that particular role. Their answer tells you exactly what they value, and it shows that you're not just thinking about getting hired. You're already thinking about becoming a valuable long-term member of the team. A useful follow-up could be, and what usually prevents new hires from reaching that level. Now you understand both what success looks like and what could get in the way. Okay, question 2. What percentage of the team actually hit quota last year? This is one of the most important questions you can ask in any sales interview, because a company can advertise an amazing OTE, but that number means very little if hardly anyone is actually earning it. Now, a low quota attainment figure doesn't automatically mean it's a bad opportunity, but it should make you ask why. Are the targets unrealistic? Is the product difficult to sell? Has the market changed? Or is it something else? A good follow-up is, what normally separates the people who hit quota from those who don't? That gives you a much more realistic picture of the earning potential than the job advert ever will. Right, question 3. What does coaching and support look like during the ramp period? This is especially important if you're trying to land your first SDR or BDR role. A strong company should be able to clearly explain how they help new starters learn the product, understand the market, and improve their sales skills. You might hear about call shadowing, role plays, regular coaching, or whatever their process looks like. But if the answer is basically, you'll learn as you go, that's worth paying attention to, because the right training environment can completely change your first few months in sales. Now, the next question, question 4. Beyond filling an open position, what is the biggest problem you need the person in this role to solve? This question immediately takes the conversation beyond the job description, because every company is hiring for a reason. Maybe they need more qualified pipeline. Maybe they're entering a new market. Maybe their account executives aren't getting enough quality meetings. Or it could be something completely different. But once you understand the real problem behind the hire, you can connect your own experience back to it. You're not just asking, what will I be doing? You're asking, what value does the business need me to create? And that makes you sound much more commercially aware. Now, this next question is really useful because you can turn the interviewer's own answer into another reason to hire you. Here it is. What separates the top performers from the rest of the team? Now, listen carefully to the answer. They might mention consistency, coachability, preparation, or whatever they've noticed among their strongest reps. And once they answer, you can connect it back to your own experience. For example, it's interesting that you mentioned coachability. In my previous role, actively asking for feedback was a big part of how I improved. Now, you're not just asking a smart question, You're reinforcing why you could be a strong fit. Now, here's question 6. When someone struggles in this role, what is usually the reason? Most candidates only ask what successful people do. This question helps you understand the other side. The interviewer might mention inconsistency, poor preparation, difficulty handling rejection, or something else entirely. But their answer can also reveal a lot about the company. If every struggling employee is blamed and the manager says nothing about coaching or support, that might tell you something about the culture. A strong manager should understand both what the employee needs to do well and what the company needs to provide to help them succeed. Now, question 7. Can you give me a recent example of someone who progressed from this role and what they did to earn that opportunity? Almost every company will tell you there's progression, but that doesn't actually necessarily mean people are progressing. So ask for a real example. Who progressed? Roughly how long did it take? And what did they do to earn it? If the company says SDRs can become account executives, but nobody has made that move for years, the career path might not be as clear as they're making it sound. Real examples are always more valuable than vague promises. Now, question 8. How is the OTE split between base salary and commission? And are there accelerators for overperformance? Remember, OTE means on-target earnings. It normally combines your guaranteed base salary with the commission you could earn if you hit target. But two roles advertising exactly the same OTE can be structured very differently. One might offer a stronger base salary. Another might place much more of your earnings at risk. You should also ask whether commission is capped and whether accelerators are available. Accelerators mean that once you exceed a certain level of performance, you earn commission at a higher rate. Now, this question shows that you understand how sales compensation works and helps you compare the real earning potential of different roles. And finally, here's the question I'd use to close the interview. Based on our conversation today, is there anything about my experience or answers that might make you hesitate to move me forward? Now, this does take some confidence, but it gives the interviewer permission to raise a concern while you still have the opportunity to respond. Maybe they say you haven't done much cold calling, or you don't have direct SaaS experience. You could then say, that makes complete sense. Although I haven't worked in SaaS before, I've spent time learning the SDR process, practicing calls, and understanding how your product helps customers. I know there'll be a learning curve, but I'm confident I can close that gap quickly. You might not completely change their mind, but it's much better to hear the objection and respond to it than leave the interview without knowing it exists. Now, please don't reach the end of the interview and fire all 8 of these questions at them one after another. That'll feel less like an interview and more like an interrogation. So prepare a few in advance, then choose the best 3 or 4 based on what has already been discussed. If they've already explained the onboarding process in detail, don't ask them to repeat it. Listen properly and make it feel like a conversation. If earning potential matters most to you, ask about quota attainment and OTE. If you're entering your first sales role, ask about coaching. If progression matters, ask for a real example. The point isn't to sound clever, it's to make a better career decision. Remember, an interview works both ways. The company is deciding whether you're the right person for the role, but you're also deciding whether the targets are realistic, whether the leadership is supportive, and whether this is an environment where you can genuinely succeed. Ask thoughtful questions and you won't sound like someone who's simply hoping to get hired. You'll sound like someone who understands sales, takes their career seriously, and is properly evaluating the opportunity. At Entr, we help aspiring SDRs prepare for interviews, understand what employers are looking for, and build the practical skills needed to break into tech sales. So, subscribe for more practical tech sales and interview advice. And let me know in the comments, which of these questions would you ask first?